The Silent House Part 1. The house always felt different at night. During the day, it was just bricks, wood, and sunlight leaking through the curtains. But when the sun went down, the shadows seemed to breathe. Raffi and Tisha, brother and sister, had never really thought about it much until the night they were left completely alone. The beginning of the night their parents had gone to the village for a family wedding. It was supposed to be only for 2 nights, and Raffi had insisted that he and his sister could handle staying home by themselves. He was 17, tall for his age, trying desperately to act grown-up. Tisha, at 15, was quieter, more thoughtful. The kind of girl who noticed details most people ignored. When their parents left, everything felt exciting. No rules. No one to tell them when to sleep. The house was theirs. At least, that's how it seemed. The first hour went normally. Raffi played games on his phone, legs stretched across the sofa. Tisha sat at the dining table doing her homework, scribbling equations in her notebook. The TV was on in the background, showing a rerun of some comedy show neither of them paid attention to. It was around 9:30 p.m. when the silence began to thicken. The first sound at first, it was subtle. A faint clink from the kitchen, like a spoon tapping against a glass. Tisha looked up immediately. Raffi, did you hear that? Raffi didn't even look away from his phone. Probably the wind. You know how the windows rattle, but all the windows are closed, she whispered. Raffi rolled his eyes. Then, it was a rat, or something. Don't freak out. But deep inside, he had heard it too. And it hadn't sounded like a rat. It had sounded deliberate. Strange things in the hall. Around 10 p.m. The house grew colder. Not just cool and naturally cold, as though someone had left a door open to the winter outside. But every window and door was locked tight. Tisha wrapped herself in a blanket and tried to focus on her homework. But her pencil slipped out of her hand when she heard the next sound. This time it wasn't from the kitchen. It was from the hallway. A slow, dragging noise, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. Raffi, she said, her voice trembling. Raffi finally put his phone down. He stood and listened. The sound continued. She, dragging, moving, getting closer. Raffi grabbed the nearest thing he could use as a weaponer, wooden ruler from the table. He stepped toward the hallway, every nerve in his body tight with fear. Tisha, stay here, he whispered. But she got up anyway, clutching his sleeve. Don't go alone. Together, they peeked into the hallway. Nothing. The corridor was empty, dimly lit by a weak yellow bulb. But the floor rug had shifted, as though something had been pulled across it. The doorbell. At 10:30. The doorbell rang. Both of them froze. No one was supposed to come. Their parents were miles away. Neighbors never visited this late. Ding-dong. Raffi took a step toward the main door. Maybe it's a delivery guy. Who delivers at this time? Tisha hissed, pulling him back. Ding-dong. The sound was sharper this time, echoing through the empty house. Raffi swallowed hard, walked to the door, and peeked through the peephole. His stomach dropped. There was no one outside. Asterisk the porch was empty. The street quiet under the orange streetlight. Asterisk. He slowly stepped back. There's nobody there. But before he could finish, the bell rang again. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Asterisk. The sound came furiously, as though someone was slamming the button again and again. Asterisk. Tisha covered her ears, shaking her head. Stop, stop, stop. And then silence. The house went still again, the shadows by midnight. Neither of them could concentrate on anything else. They sat together on the sofa, the TV still playing but muted. Then Tisha saw it, on the opposite wall, just above the TV screen. A shadow stretched unnaturally long, but it wasn't theirs. The shadow looked like a tall figure, standing perfectly still, its head tilted slightly to one side, as though it were watching them. Asterisk. Her throat went dry. She grabbed Rafi's arm so tightly he almost yelped. Asterisk. What? He whispered. She pointed. Rafi turned his head slowly. His heart pounded so loud he thought it would burst out of his chest. Asterisk. The shadow didn't move. Asterisk. It didn't fade. Asterisk. It was just there, an extra presence. In the room where no one stood. The breaking point. Asterisk. Rafi decided they couldn't just sit and wait. Asterisk. He switched on every light in the house. Asterisk. The hallway, the kitchen, the living room bright as day. But the shadow didn't disappear. And then, as though mocking him, the light bulb above them flickered twice and went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Tisha screamed. Somewhere behind them, a voice whispered, Asterisk. You're not alone. The third presence. Asterisk. Rafi turned on his phone flashlight, sweeping it across the room. Asterisk. The beam caught the glass cabinet near the wall. Asterisk. Two reflections stared back at him, his and Tisha's. Asterisk. And a third. Asterisk. A figure standing directly behind them. Asterisk. Its face was blurred, its body tall and thin, its eyes nothing but dark pits. Asterisk. Tisha froze, her breath caught in her throat. Rafi spun around, swinging the ruler wildly into the air. Nothing. But when he turned back to the glass, the figure was still there, still watching. The ending of part 1. Asterisk. The siblings huddled together, shivering, their minds racing. Asterisk. This isn't real, Rafi muttered, trying to convince himself. It's just our imagination. Asterisk. But Tisha shook her head violently. Tears welled in her eyes. Asterisk. No, it's real. And it's inside the house. Asterisk. At that exact moment, all the doors in the house slammed shut at once. Asterisk. The sound thundered through the walls, shaking the floor beneath their feet. Rafi dropped the ruler. The voice whispered again, closer this time, as though breathing into their ears. Asterisk. Now the game begins. The Silent House, Part 2. The night had not ended. Rafi and Tisha sat pressed against each other on the sofa, their faces pale in the glow of Rafi's phone flashlight. The ruler he had once held for defense lay forgotten on the floor. The echo of the slamming doors still thundered inside their heads. They weren't alone. They both knew it now. After the whisper. Asterisk. The last thing they had heard before the silence swallowed the house again was that chilling voice. Now the game begins. Asterisk. But what game? Asterisk, what rules? Asterisk, and most importantly, who or what was playing with them? Asterisk, the siblings didn't dare speak for several minutes. Even whispering felt dangerous, as though acknowledging the voice would invite it closer. Asterisk, finally. Tisha broke the silence. Asterisk, Raffi. I want to leave. Asterisk, Raffi's jaw tightened. We can't. It's the middle of the night, and the main door. Asterisk, he paused. The thought struck him like lightning. The main door, hadn't it slammed too? Asterisk, he shot up to his feet and ran to the entrance. Tisha followed close behind. Asterisk, the heavy wooden door loomed before them, its brass lock gleaming faintly in the flashlight's beam. Raffi grabbed the handle and twisted nothing. He pulled harder. The door refused to move. Panic rushed into his chest. He dropped to his knees, fumbling with the lock. But the keyhole was sealed, shut as though the metal had melted together. Asterisk, Tisha's voice cracked. We're trapped. Footsteps above just then, thump. Both of them froze. The sound had come from upstairs. Asterisk, slow. Heavy footsteps, pacing back and forth directly above them. Asterisk, but the upstairs rooms had been locked for weeks. Their parents never let them use those rooms. They were dusty storage spaces, filled with old trunks and furniture. Asterisk, Raffi raised the flashlight toward the staircase. The beam quivered in his hand. The footsteps grew louder. Thump. 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 Asterisk, Tisha clutched his arm. Someone's up there. Asterisk, Raffi swallowed hard. No, not someone. The decision. They had two choices. Stay in the living room and wait for whatever was up there to come down, or go upstairs themselves and face it before it decided to face them. Neither option was safe. Asterisk. Raffi tightened his grip on the flashlight. If we just sit here, it'll find us anyway. We have to see what it is. Asterisk, Tisha shook her head violently. No, please. Don't go up. But she knew him. He wasn't the kind of brother who could sit still while danger crept closer. Asterisk, and if he went up, she couldn't let him go alone. Upstairs. Asterisk, the staircase groaned beneath their steps as they climbed. Every creak echoed like a scream in the silence. Asterisk, halfway up, Raffi thought he saw movement, a flicker of shadow darting across the landing. He froze, his breath caught in his throat. Asterisk, did you see that? He whispered. Tisha nodded, her face drained of color. When they finally reached the top, the air felt heavier. Dust hung in the beam of the flashlight, glittering like ash. All the doors were shut, but one stood slightly open. Asterisk, the footsteps had stopped. Asterisk, Raffi approached slowly, his heart hammering. He pushed the door wider. Asterisk, the room was filled with old furniture covered in white sheets. The smell of mildew clung to the air. Asterisk, at first, it seemed empty. And then the sheet over the farthest chair moved. Not from the draft. Not from their footsteps. Asterisk, it moved as though something underneath had just shifted. The thing in the chair. Asterisk, Raffi raised the flashlight. The beam landed directly on the chair. Asterisk, the sheet bulged outward, forming the faint shape of a head and shoulders. Asterisk, Tisha gasped, covering her mouth. The shape moved again, slowly, deliberately. Asterisk, Raffi stepped forward, hand trembling as he reached out. Asterisk, don't Tisha whispered. Please, don't. But he had to know. With one swift motion, he yanked the sheet away. The chair was empty, but the air around it felt icy. And for a brief moment, he thought he saw something, a tall figure made of pure shadow sitting there. Its hollow eyes locked on his. Then it was gone. The laughter, a sound cut through the silence. Laughter, but it wasn't coming from the room *, it was coming from the hallway behind them *, high-pitched, distorted, like a recording played backward. Tisha screamed, grabbing Rafi's arm. They bolted into the hallway, the flashlight beam jerking wildly across the walls. The laughter chased them down the corridor, growing louder, until it felt as though it was inside their heads. Rafi shoved open another door and dragged Tisha inside. He slammed it shut, pressing his back against it. Gasping for breath, the laughter stopped, instantly. The silence returned, *. The locked room, they looked around. The room they had run into was different from the others. There were no dusty sheets. No old trunks, *. Instead, the walls were bare. The floor was clean, and in the center stood a single wooden table. On it lay a small object, a black notebook. Tisha frowned. What is that? Rafi approached cautiously and picked it up. The cover was cracked leather, cold to the touch. He flipped it open. The first page was blank. So was the second *, but on the third, words had been scrawled in jagged handwriting. *2 players. 1 house. Only 1 leaves. The realization, Rafi's blood ran cold. He showed it to Tisha, whose eyes widened with horror. What does it mean? She whispered *, before he could answer. The door behind them rattled violently. Bang, bang, bang. Something was trying to get in. Rafi and Tisha clutched each other, their hearts racing. The notebook slipped from Rafi's hands, falling open to another page. This one had a single sentence written across it. The second round begins at 3 a.m. They looked at the clock on the wall. It was 2:59. Part 3. The old clock on the wall ticked once, twice, and then struck 3. A deep, hollow chime echoed through the upstairs corridor, rattling the air like a funeral bell. Rafi and Tisha clutched each other tightly, their eyes fixed on the notebook lying open on the floor. The second round begins at 3 a.m. Neither of them dared breathe. And then, the door that had been rattling violently only moments ago went completely silent. The stillness before the house seemed to fall into a strange calm. Laughter, no footsteps, no dragging sounds, only silence. But it wasn't peaceful silence. It was the kind that pressed down on their chests, suffocating. Like the air itself was waiting for something to happen. Tisha whispered, maybe it's gone. Rafi shook his head slowly, eyes darting to the clock again. No, it's just beginning. The notebook changes. Rafi bent down and picked up the notebook again. The words on the page had changed. Fresh ink, dripping and wet, had scrawled itself across the paper as though an invisible hand had just written it. Find the hidden door before the shadow finds you. Asterisk Taisha's voice cracked. What hidden door? There's no hidden door in this house. Asterisk Rafi's mind raced. He thought about the storage rooms, the basement, the strange unused upstairs spaces. Could one of them hide something? Asterisk before he could answer. The light from his phone flickered and died. Darkness swallowed them whole. The whisper returns. Out of the pitch black came the whisper. Not far away. Not down the hall. Asterisk. Right behind Taisha's ear. Asterisk, you can't hide forever. Asterisk, she screamed and spun. But the room was empty. Asterisk Rafi grabbed her hand. We need light now. Asterisk, he fumbled through his pocket, pulled out a lighter he sometimes used to light candles during power cuts, and sparked it. A tiny flame flared to life, casting a dim orange glow. Asterisk, in the trembling light. The words in the notebook glistened again. Asterisk, the hidden door is closer than you think. The search asterisk, they left the room cautiously, the lighter shaking in Rafi's grip. The hallway stretched endlessly in both directions, its shadows shifting with every flicker of the flame. Asterisk, where do we look? Tisha whispered. Asterisk Rafi pressed his lips together. Everywhere. Walls, floors, anything that doesn't look right. Asterisk, they started tapping along the walls, searching for hollow spots. The air grew colder the farther they walked. Then Tisha froze. Rafi, look. Asterisk, at the end of the hallway, a section of wallpaper was peeling, as though something behind it wanted to break free. Asterisk, they hurried over. Rafi ran his hands across the surface. The wallpaper tore easily, revealing a narrow wooden door hidden behind it. Asterisk, a door that had no handle. The shadow asterisk before they could figure out how to open it. The temperature dropped sharply. Their breath turned to mist in front of them. Asterisk, and then, at the other end of the hallway, it appeared. The shadow, tall, twisted. Its limbs impossibly long. Its head tilted at a grotesque angle. It didn't walk. It glided. Straight toward them. Open it, Tisha screamed. Open the door. Asterisk Rafi slammed his fists against the wood. It won't budge. Asterisk the shadow moved closer. Its hollow eyes burning into them. Asterisk Tisha began pounding on the door too, tears streaking her face. Please, please, open. Asterisk at the last possible moment, the wood split down the middle with a deafening crack. The door swung inward. They stumbled through and the door slammed shut behind them. Asterisk. The hidden room asterisk. They fell into darkness. The lighter had gone out in the chaos. Asterisk, but strangely, the air here felt different. Heavy, but not hostile. Asterisk Rafi managed to relight the flame. The glow revealed a small hidden room. Its walls covered in writing. Asterisk every inch of the stone surface was scratched with the same sentence. Asterisk, don't let it choose you. Asterisk, Taisha's voice shook. Choose us. What does that mean? Asterisk. Before Rafi could reply, the notebook in his hand grew warm. He flipped it open. New words appeared on the page. The shadow must claim one. Only one of you leaves. The choice asterisk. Tisha backed away, shaking her head furiously. No, no, it's lying. It's trying to make us turn on each other. Asterisk Rafi clenched his jaw. He refused to believe it, but the words on the walls, repeated thousands of times, made his stomach twist. The shadow wasn't trying to kill them both. It was playing with them, forcing them into its game. Suddenly, the hidden door behind them rattled violently, as though the shadow was slamming against it, eager to enter. The notebook wrote one final message. When the clock strikes 4, the door will open. But only for one asterisk. They looked at each other, terrified. Realizing what it meant, they had 1 hour to decide asterisk. The hour, the next 60 minutes felt like eternity. They sat on the cold floor, the lighter flickering between them. Neither spoke for a long time. When Tisha finally broke the silence, her voice was small. Rafi, if it really comes down to one of us, it should be you. Asterisk. Rafi's eyes widened. Don't you dare say that. Asterisk. You're older, stronger. You can survive out there. No. His voice cracked. He grabbed her shoulders. I promised Mom and Dad I'd take care of you. I'm not letting you die in this place. Asterisk. Tears welled in her eyes. But what if it doesn't give us a choice? The notebook suddenly flipped its own pages in a gust of unseen wind. On the last page, new words appeared. Asterisk. The shadow chooses, but it listens to fear. The final minutes. The clock outside began to chime. 3:55. Asterisk. The hidden door rattled louder, dust falling from the ceiling. The shadow's whisper seeped through the cracks, echoing all around them. Asterisk. Which one of you is afraid? Which one will I take? Asterisk. Tisha sobbed, covering her ears. Make it stop. Please make it stop. Asterisk. Rafi held her tightly. He whispered in her ear, don't be afraid. Don't let it know. But inside, he was terrified. 3:58. Asterisk. The walls shook. The writing on them glowed faintly, as if alive. 3:59. The notebook burned hot in his hands. He dropped it to the floor, where it burst into black smoke, and then the clock struck 4. The ending of part 3. Asterisk. The hidden door burst open. Asterisk. The shadow surged inside, filling the room with darkness. Its hollow eyes darted between them, deciding, judging. It stretched out one long, claw-like hand. Tisha screamed. Rafi shouted her name, and then the shadow chose. Asterisk. Everything went black. Part 4. Asterisk. Darkness. Asterisk. That was all Rafi knew for a moment after the shadow struck. The air was sucked out of the hidden room, as though the entire world had collapsed into silence. Asterisk. When he finally opened his eyes, he was lying on the cold floor. His head ached. His body felt heavy, and Tisha was gone. The aftermath. Rafi scrambled to his feet, panic surging through his chest. Tisha. His voice echoed in the empty space, but there was no reply. The hidden room looked different now. The glowing scratches on the walls had vanished. The notebook was gone. The lighter lay cold and lifeless at his feet. Asterisk. Only one thing remained, the faint smell of smoke, and the memory of that voice whispering, the shadow chooses. His worst fear had come true. It had taken his sister. Asterisk. The door reopens. Asterisk. The hidden door, which had been impossible to open before, now swung wide on its own. Beyond it, the hallway stretched into darkness. Asterisk. Rafi's legs trembled, but he forced himself forward. He had to find her. Asterisk. The hallway was silent, but as he walked, faint sounds began to echo. A girl crying. Soft broken sobs drifting through the walls. Asterisk Tisha. Asterisk he followed the sound, his steps quickening. The crying led him down the stairs, past the living room, into the basement door that had always been locked. Asterisk now it stood open. The basement asterisk. The basement stairs creaked as he descended. The crying grew louder, echoing like it came from everywhere at once. Asterisk the air was damp, filled with the smell of earth and mold. His flashlight barely lit more than a few feet ahead. Asterisk at the bottom of the stairs. The basement opened into a wide chamber he had never seen before. Asterisk, and there, in the corner, sat Tisha. Asterisk her knees pulled to her chest, her hair falling over her face. She rocked back and forth, whispering to herself. Asterisk relief flooded through him. Tisha. He rushed forward. Asterisk, but as he got closer, she raised her head, and his relief turned to terror. Asterisk, not his sister. Tisha's eyes were pitch black, her face pale. Her lips curled into a smile that wasn't hers. The shadow was inside her, Raffi, she said. Her voice layered with something deeper, something inhuman. It didn't take me away. It gave me back. Asterisk, he stumbled backward, shaking his head. No, no, you're not her. Get out of her. Asterisk the thing inside Tisha tilted her head. She's still here. But she's mine now. Do you want her back? Asterisk Raffi's fists clenched. Yes, give her back. Asterisk the shadow's smile widened. Then you'll play another round. The new game asterisk the basement walls groaned as though alive. Doors appeared in the stone, each one different, one painted red. One black, one covered in chains. One glowing faintly. The shadow inside Tisha raised her hand and pointed. Choose a door, brother. Behind one lies your sister. Behind the others lies only me. Asterisk Raffi's heart pounded. He didn't trust it. Every part of him screamed that this was another trap, but he had no choice. He stepped toward the doors, his hands shaking. The first door he chose, the red one. The handle burned hot as he touched it. He gritted his teeth and pulled. Asterisk inside was not a room, but a vision. Asterisk he saw Tisha as a child, playing in the backyard, laughing as their mother called her inside for dinner. Asterisk for a moment. Warmth filled him. Asterisk, then the vision twisted. Tisha turned to look at him, her eyes black, her mouth stretching unnaturally wide. Wrong choice, the voice hissed. The vision shattered. The door slammed shut. The second door. Asterisk Raffi turned to the black door, sweat dripping down his face. He yanked it open. Asterisk darkness poured out, swallowing him whole. Asterisk he found himself standing in the living room of their house, but it wasn't the same. The furniture was rotting, the walls bleeding with shadow. Asterisk, and in the center of the room hung Tisha, suspended in mid-air by invisible hands, her face pale and lifeless. Asterisk, help me, she whispered. He ran to her, but the moment he touched her, she crumbled into ash. The voice laughed. Still wrong. The third door. Asterisk, the chained door rattled violently as he approached. He hesitated, then ripped the chains free with a strength he didn't know he had. Asterisk inside was a corridor of mirrors. Asterisk dozens of reflections of himself. stared back at him, each one twisted, scarred, or broken in some way. And at the very end, one reflection showed him holding Taisha's hand, both of them safe, alive. Smiling, he ran toward it desperately, but the closer he got, the more the reflection cracked until the glass shattered completely, and darkness swallowed him again. The last door, only one door remained, the faintly glowing one. Rafi's chest heaved as he stepped closer. He didn't want to open it. He couldn't handle another trick. But Taisha's body, still possessed, still watching, whispered, "Open it." He closed his eyes and pulled. The glow spilled out. Warm and soft. Inside was Tisha, his real sister, curled up on the floor. Her eyes normal, her face wet with tears. She looked up at him. "Rafi, is it really you?" He fell to his knees, pulling her into his arms. "It's me, I found you." For a moment, everything felt real. Everything felt right. But then the shadow's laughter filled the basement again. "You may have found her, but you cannot keep her." The choice returns. The walls shook violently, dust raining from the ceiling. The doors vanished, leaving only darkness. Rafi held Tisha tightly, shielding her with his body. "You're not taking her again. Do you hear me?" The shadow's voice grew deeper, shaking the floor. "One leaves. One stays." Tisha clung to him, sobbing. "No, don't listen to it. Don't choose." But the shadow was already rising from the floor, tall and monstrous, its arms stretching toward them both. Rafi realized the truth. This game would never end unless one of them made the sacrifice. The ending of part. For Rafi looked into Tisha's terrified eyes. "Listen to me," he whispered. "I promised I'd protect you. I'm not breaking that promise." Before she could stop him, he shoved her toward the glowing light that had appeared once again in the corner of the basement. She screamed his name, reaching for him, but the light swallowed her whole, and Rafi turned to face the shadow alone. The last thing he heard was its whisper in his ear. "The game continues." Part 5. Darkness. Not the ordinary kind. Not the kind you see when you close your eyes. This was heavier. Alive, crushing. Rafi stood in the middle of nothing. His body weightless, as though he had stepped outside the world itself. The air smelled like burnt wood and old blood. The silence was deafening. Then came the voice. "You chose well. Now you belong to me." Rafi clenched his fists, his teeth grinding. "I didn't choose for myself. I chose for her. If you think you own me, you're wrong." The shadow laughed, a sound that rattled through the black void. "You gave yourself freely. That makes you mine." The new prison. The darkness shifted, reshaping itself. Suddenly Rafi was no longer floating. He stood in what looked like their childhood home, but not quite. The walls were rotting. The paint peeled. The furniture was twisted, stretched, wrong. The photographs on the walls showed smiling faces with hollow eyes. He looked around, heart pounding. "Where am I?" The voice whispered from every corner. "You are inside the house." The true house. The one beneath the skin of your world. Raffi swallowed hard. He realized the truth. He hadn't just lost his freedom. He had been pulled into the house's heart, into whatever nightmare dimension the shadow ruled. The first trial he wandered the halls, searching for a way out. But every door led back to the same hallway. Every staircase folded into itself. Then, without warning, a figure appeared at the end of the corridor. Tisha. She was standing still, her hair covering her face. His heart leaped. Tisha. You escaped. This isn't real. He ran toward her, but the closer he got, the more wrong she looked. Her arms were too long. Her fingers dragged across the floor. When she finally raised her face, it wasn't Tisha at all. Her mouth stretched from ear to ear, filled with jagged teeth. She lunged at him. Raffi barely dodged, slamming into the wall. He grabbed a broken piece of wood from the floor and swung it. The thing screeched and dissolved into smoke. The voice chuckled. Everything here wears her face. Can you tell which one is really hers? Raffi's blood ran cold. The echoing voices. He pressed forward, ignoring the endless laughter. The halls twisted again, leading him into the kitchen. At the table sat his mother. Or at least, something that looked like her. She was stirring a pot with a wooden spoon, humming softly. The smell of stew filled the air, but beneath it was the stench of rot. Mom. His voice cracked. You've been gone for years. She turned slowly, her smile too wide, her eyes too dark. Raffi, darling. Stay for dinner. The pot bubbled violently. He looked inside and recoiled. Floating in the broth were human fingers, eyes, teeth. He stumbled back. You're not real. The shadow's voice hissed from behind her smile. Real enough to make you doubt. The second trial the house shifted again. And suddenly he was standing in the basement. But this basement was endless pillars of stone stretched upward into blackness. The floor was covered in shallow water, reflecting faint light. And in the distance, he saw Tisha again. This time, she looked normal. Weak, trembling, but real. Raffi. She cried, her voice breaking. He sprinted toward her, his footsteps splashing. But no matter how far he ran, she never got closer. Then the water around him rippled. Something moved beneath the surface. Dozens of pale hands burst out, grabbing his legs, his arms, pulling him down. He fought, kicking, clawing, screaming. The hands dragged him under. The water filled his lungs. He thrashed violently. Until suddenly, he was back in the hallway again, gasping for breath. Soaked and shivering, the shadow whispered, "Every path here ends with me." A flicker of hope, for the first time. Raffi felt the weight of hopelessness pressing down. Maybe he had doomed himself. Maybe there was no escape. But then, something strange happened. In the corner of the rotten hallway, he saw a light. Faint, flickering like a candle. He moved toward it cautiously. It wasn't a candle. It was a notebook. The same one Tisha had found in the hidden room. He knelt, opening it with trembling hands. The pages were filled with scribbles, symbols, and warnings. But at the bottom of one page, a line was written clearly. Asterisk, the shadow cannot exist without the house. Destroy the house, and you free yourself. Asterisk, Raffi's eyes widened. His chest tightened. For the first time, he had a weapon knowledge. The third trial, asterisk, the walls shook violently. The notebook burned in his hands, turning to ash. Asterisk, the voice roared. You should not have read that. Asterisk, the house twisted into a new shape. Raffi found himself in a massive room he didn't recognize. Asterisk, it was filled with doors. Hundreds of them. All closed, all identical. One of them pulsed faintly with light. The shadow spoke again. Behind one door lies freedom. Behind the others lies only me. Choose wisely, asterisk. Raffi gritted his teeth. I'm done playing your games. But he knew he had no choice. He stepped toward the glowing door. The confrontation asterisk, the glowing door opened into the attic. Their attic, asterisk, but instead of dusty boxes and old clothes, the entire space was filled with mirrors. Dozens of them, all reflecting him, each one twisted, broken, monstrous. And in the largest mirror stood the shadow. It didn't hide this time. It had a form tall, faceless, draped in rags of darkness. Its long fingers scraped against the glass. Asterisk, you cannot win, boy. This house is me. I am the walls, the doors, the air you breathe. You belong here now. Asterisk, Raffi stepped forward, his fists clenched. Then I'll tear you down with my bare hands. Asterisk, the shadow laughed. Try. The battle asterisk, the mirrors shattered. Shards flew like knives, cutting his arms and face. From the broken glass, dozens of shadow creatures crawled out, distorted bodies, crawling on all fours, their mouths filled with teeth. Asterisk, Raffi grabbed a shard of mirror, holding it like a blade. He swung wildly, slicing through the creatures as they lunged at him. Their bodies dissolved into smoke, but more kept coming. Asterisk, the shadow loomed taller, its form filling the attic, its voice shaking the walls. Asterisk, you are nothing. You are mine. Asterisk, Raffi roared back, stabbing one creature after another. His arms burned, his lungs ached, but he refused to fall. Asterisk, and then he saw it, the wooden beam at the center of the attic, splitting under the strain of the fight. Asterisk, the heart of the house. The sacrifice asterisk. The words from the notebook echoed in his mind. Destroy the house. And you free yourself. Raffi knew what he had to do. He shoved past the last of the creatures, sprinting toward the beam. The shadow's roar shook the attic. The floor cracked beneath him. He raised the shard of mirror high above his head, and, with all his strength, he drove it deep into the beam. The house screamed. The walls buckled. The floor collapsed. Fire and smoke erupted from every corner as the entire structure began to fall apart. Asterisk, the shadow howled in rage, its form unraveling, its voice splitting into 1,000 screams. Asterisk, Raffi felt the world tearing apart around him. He clung to the beam as the house fell into darkness. Then silence asterisk. The ending of Part 5. Raffi opened his eyes. He was lying on the grass outside, under the night sky. The ruined house smoldered behind him, collapsed into ash and rubble. and standing a few feet away was Tisha *. She ran to him, tears streaming down her face. Rafi, you're alive. He held her tightly, his body trembling. For the first time, they were free. But as he looked at the ruins of the house, he swore he saw something move in the smoke. A faint shape, a shadow. And he knew this wasn't over. Part 6. The night air was cold, sharp against their skin. Rafi sat on the damp grass, his chest heaving. Every breath burned. His arms were scratched, his clothes torn, but he was alive. Beside him. Tisha clung to him like a child, her tears soaking his shirt. They had survived, or at least, it looked that way. Behind them, the house lay in ruins. What was once a towering ancient structure had collapsed into a blackened heap. The walls had caved in, the roof had splintered. Smoke curled upward into the night sky, carrying the smell of charred wood and dust. But the ruins didn't look ordinary. They shifted. They breathed. Rafi's eyes narrowed. He hadn't imagined it. The shadow wasn't finished. The escaped Tisha, he whispered, gripping her shoulders. We can't stay here. We need to move, now. She looked up, her face pale in the moonlight. But, the house it's not gone, he interrupted. His voice was tight, urgent. I destroyed its heart, but something's still alive in there. I can feel it. Her lips trembled. Then where do we go? Rafi looked out at the dark forest surrounding them. The trees swayed, their branches clawing at the sky. Anywhere but here. He helped her to her feet. And together they staggered into the woods. The forest at night the deeper they went, the quieter it became. Even the crickets seemed to have gone silent. Only their footsteps and ragged breathing filled the air. Every shadow between the trees seemed to shift when Rafi wasn't looking directly at it. Every gust of wind sounded like whispers. Tisha kept glancing behind them, her hand gripping his arm tightly. It's following us, isn't it? Rafi didn't answer. He didn't want to scare her further, but yes. He felt it. The weight of unseen eyes pressing against his back. The forest itself felt wrong. As though they hadn't escaped the nightmare at all. The cabin hours passed before they stumbled upon a cabin. It stood crooked among the trees, its windows dark, its door slightly open. Tisha's legs shook with exhaustion. Rafi, I can't walk anymore. He hesitated. The cabin looked abandoned. But abandoned was better than exposed. All right, he said softly. We'll rest here. Just for a little while. They pushed the door open. The air inside was stale, heavy with dust. Broken furniture littered the room. A fireplace stood cold and empty. Still. It was shelter. Rafi laid Tisha down on a torn couch, covering her with his jacket. She was asleep almost instantly. But Rafi didn't sleep. He sat by the window, staring into the dark woods, and that's when he saw it. The figure at first, he thought it was a trick of the trees. A tall shadow standing just beyond the clearing dot. Asterisk, but it didn't move with the wind. Asterisk, it stood perfectly still, watching. Asterisk, Raffi's chest tightened. He reached for a broken chair leg, gripping it like a weapon. Asterisk, the figure didn't come closer. It only stood there, waiting. Asterisk, hours passed. The sky began to lighten with dawn. Asterisk, and only then did the shadow dissolve back into the trees. The return of the voices. Morning didn't bring peace. When Tisha woke, she claimed she had heard voices all night. They were calling me, she whispered, clutching her head. Raffi, it was Mom's voice. She kept saying my name. Asterisk, Raffi froze. He remembered the shadow's tricks. It loved to wear familiar faces. Asterisk, that wasn't Mom, he said firmly. Don't listen to it, ever. But as the day stretched on, he began to hear them too. Whispers in the trees. Laughter in the wind. And always, always, that deep voice murmuring in the back of his skull. The house is gone. But I remain, the cabin's secret. Asterisk, that night. As Tisha slept again, Raffi explored the cabin. Asterisk, most of it was empty. But in the corner of the bedroom, beneath a loose floorboard, he found something, a box. Inside were photographs. Old, yellowed, some cracked and faded. Asterisk, they were of families. Dozens of them. Each one standing in front of the house, their house. Asterisk, Raffi's blood ran cold. Different families, different generations. But the same house. Asterisk, it had been there for centuries. It had taken people before them. It would take people after. Asterisk, unless. Asterisk, at the bottom of the box was a letter, written in hurried, shaking handwriting. Asterisk, you can burn the walls, you can shatter the beams. But the shadow will not die. It binds itself to the bloodline it chooses. If you are reading this, it has chosen you. Raffi's hands trembled. It hadn't just been the house. It was them, him, the possession. The days blurred together. Asterisk, Tisha grew weaker, paler. Sometimes she wouldn't speak for hours. Just staring out the window as though waiting for something. Asterisk, at night. Raffi would wake to find her standing at the door, whispering to someone who wasn't there. Asterisk, one night. He caught her hand hovering above the latch. Asterisk, he grabbed her shoulders, shaking her. What are you doing? Asterisk, her eyes were glassy, unfocused. They're calling me. Raffi, I have to go. Asterisk, no. His voice cracked. That's not them. It's the shadow. It wants you. Asterisk, she blinked, her face crumpling as she collapsed into his arms. I'm scared, Raffi. Asterisk, he held her tightly, his throat burning. So am I. The mark. Asterisk, on the third night in the cabin. Raffi noticed something on his arm. A mark, dark. Vein-like lines spreading beneath his skin, crawling upward from his wrist. Asterisk, he rubbed at it desperately, but it didn't fade. It pulsed like it was alive. Asterisk, when Tisha saw it, she gasped. Raffi, it's choosing you. Asterisk, he didn't answer. But deep down, he knew she was right. The shadow had bound itself to him. Destroying the house hadn't ended it. It had only passed into him. The breaking point. Asterisk, the following night. The figure returned outside the cabin. Asterisk, this time. It wasn't alone. Asterisk dozens of shadows stood at the tree line, their shapes barely human, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Asterisk Tisha whimpered. They're waiting for us. Asterisk Raffi gripped the chair leg tighter, his jaw clenched. No, they're waiting for me. Asterisk the mark on his arm burned like fire. The whispers grew louder, pounding against his skull. Asterisk, you are mine now. Bring her to me, or burn with me. Asterisk, he fell to his knees, clutching his head, screaming. Asterisk Tisha dropped beside him, her hands shaking as she tried to hold him. Fight it, Raffi. Please, fight it. Asterisk, but he could feel it. The shadow wasn't outside anymore. It was inside him. Part 7, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The cabin was no longer safe. Asterisk shadows seeped through the cracks in the wood, curling along the floor like smoke. The night outside pressed against the windows, but the real danger was inside. Asterisk Raffi stood in the center of the room, his chest heaving, his fists trembling. His eyes flickered between normal and pitch black, his veins pulsing with the dark mark. Tisha pressed herself against the wall, her heart hammering. Raffi. She whispered, her voice breaking. Please fight it. Asterisk, his jaw clenched, his voice layered and distorted. I'm trying. But it's inside me. It won't let go. The shadow's voice slid from his throat like oil. One leaves. One stays. That is the rule. The struggle. Asterisk Raffi dropped to his knees, clutching his head. His nails dug into his scalp until blood dotted his skin. Asterisk Tisha rushed forward, grabbing his hands. Stop. Don't let it take you. Asterisk for a moment, his eyes cleared. His trembling fingers wrapped around hers. Run, please. Asterisk, she shook her head violently, tears streaming down her face. No, I'm not leaving you again. We survived the house, we'll survive this too. But the shadow pushed back through his voice, cruel and mocking. You survived because I allowed it. She survived because you offered yourself. Now it is time for her to repay that debt. Asterisk Raffi screamed, his body convulsing as though two forces tore him apart from the inside. The mirror. Asterisk, the shadows in the cabin thickened, reshaping themselves. A mirror grew out of the wall, tall, cracked, its surface rippling like water. Asterisk in the reflection, Tisha saw not the cabin but the ruins of their home. The house was whole again in the glass, its windows glowing faintly. Asterisk, the shadow whispered, step through, and it ends. Leave him. Be free. Asterisk, Tisha's breath caught. The mirror shimmered invitingly, a way out. A life without the nightmare. Asterisk, but she looked at Raffi, still writhing on the floor, his voice breaking as he begged, don't. Leave me. Asterisk, her body shook with indecision. Every instinct screamed at her to escape. But her heart chained her to him. Raffi's plea. Asterisk, he crawled toward her, blood running down his face from where he'd scratched himself. His hands gripped her wrists so tightly it hurt. Asterisk Tisha. His voice was his own again, soft, desperate. You have to go. If it takes me, it can't have you. You'll be safe. Asterisk, she shook her head furiously. I won't survive without you. Don't you get it? You're all I have left. Asterisk, his eyes filled with tears. For a moment, the shadow seemed gone. For a moment, it was only Rafi asterisk, and then his mouth twisted into a smile that wasn't his. His grip turned to iron. Asterisk, she's mine, boy. You've had your turn. The knife asterisk, the fireplace in the cabin hadn't worked in years. But an old hunting knife hung above it, rusted but sharp enough. Taisha's eyes darted to it. The shadow noticed. Rafi's head snapped toward the blade, his lips stretching into a grin. Just take it. Do what he cannot. End him, and I'll let you live. Asterisk, her stomach churned. The thought made bile rise in her throat. But if she didn't, she'd lose him anyway. Asterisk, she ripped the knife from the mantel, holding it with trembling hands. Asterisk, Rafi's eyes flickered between black and brown, his body shaking violently. Tisha, please, don't let it win. The possession deepens, the shadow took full control. Rafi's body straightened unnaturally, his movements jerky, wrong. His blackened eyes locked onto her. Asterisk put the knife down. It hissed through his mouth. Come with me into the dark. Be with your brother forever. Asterisk, Tisha raised the blade higher, her tears blurring her vision. Inside, she screamed. Outside, she whispered, I won't lose you. The battle within. Asterisk, Rafi lunged at her, his strength inhuman. He slammed her against the wall, the knife clattering to the floor. Asterisk, but even as the shadow roared through him, his true voice broke through in fragments. Tisha, fight me. Don't give up. Asterisk, she shoved against him with all her strength, scrambling for the knife. Her fingers wrapped around the handle, just as his hands closed around her throat. Asterisk, her lungs burned. Her vision blurred, and then she drove the knife not into him, but into her own arm. Blood splattered the floor. She screamed in pain, but the effect was immediate. Asterisk, Rafi froze. His eyes flickered, confusion crossing his face. The shadow shrieked in fury. Asterisk, no. The bond is with him, not her. The revelation. Asterisk, Tisha gasped through the pain, clutching her bleeding arm. You said it yourself. It bound to our bloodline. Asterisk, her voice shook, but her eyes burned with defiance. Then it's not just him. It's me too. And if it wants him, it has to go through me. Asterisk, the shadow hesitated, its control faltering. Rafi collapsed to the floor, coughing violently. Asterisk, for the first time, the shadow sounded unsure. Two vessels. Impossible. Asterisk, Tisha gritted her teeth. Not impossible. We're stronger together. The storm. Asterisk, the cabin shuddered. Windows shattered inward, wind screaming through the broken glass. The shadows outside surged forward, flooding the room like black water. Asterisk, Rafi and Taisha clung to each other as the darkness swallowed everything. Asterisk, the shadow roared, its voice filling every crack of the world. Then both will stay. Both will belong to me. Asterisk, but as the black tide closed in, Tisha pressed her forehead against Rafi's, whispering fiercely, if we go down, we go down together. For the first time since the nightmare began, Rafi smiled through the pain. Together. Part 8 asterisk, 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 the world was ash. Asterisk, the gray field stretched endlessly in every direction, the ground flat and lifeless. The sky a swirling storm of clouds with no sun, no moon, no stars. Rafi and Tisha stood side by side, their hands locked tightly together, and across the vast emptiness. The shadow waited. It wasn't hiding anymore. Its form towered like a mountain of smoke and limbs, its faceless head stretching toward the sky. The air around it twisted, bending unnaturally, as though reality itself didn't want it there. Tisha shivered. Where are we? Rafi's jaw clenched. Its world, its battlefield. The shadow's voice rolled across the field like thunder, blood that resists, bond that defies. You are mine, both of you forever. The march the ground trembled with every step the shadow took. With each movement, fragments of the ruined house appeared around them, broken doors, shattered mirrors, blood-stained floors. It was dragging pieces of their nightmare here, reshaping the battlefield with memories. Rafi whispered, it wants us to feel trapped, to make us remember we don't win. Tisha squeezed his hand harder. Then we remind it we survived every game it threw at us. For the first time, he looked at her with something close to pride. We fight together. The first wave the shadow lifted one massive arm, and the field cracked open. From the gray soil, dozens of creatures crawled out, things made of smoke and teeth, bodies warped like broken dolls. They charged. Rafi grabbed a jagged piece of glass that had appeared with the fragments of the house. Tisha armed herself with a splintered wooden beam. The siblings fought side by side. Rafi slashed through the shadows, each strike scattering them into smoke. Tisha swung wildly, her beam breaking skulls and snapping limbs. Their movements weren't perfect, but they were together, covering each other's blind spots. For every creature that fell, more emerged. But for the first time, they weren't running. They weren't hiding. They were fighting. The shadow's voice, as the battle raged, the shadow's voice seeped into their minds. You think you resist. You think you are strong. But you are mine because you are broken. Without me, you are nothing. Rafi spat blood onto the ground, glaring upward. Without you, we're free. The shadow laughed, the sound shaking the sky. Free, you are bound to each other like chains. You call it love, but it is weakness. Watch as I turn it against you. The illusion, the battlefield shifted. Suddenly, Tisha wasn't beside Rafi anymore. She was across the field, her face twisted in terror. Between them, an army of shadows rose like a wall. Tisha. Rafi roared, sprinting forward. But the closer he got, the farther she seemed. Her voice screamed across the field. Rafi, help me. At the same time, Tisha saw the world differently. She stood alone, with Rafi on the far side, his body chained, dragged into darkness. Rafi. She cried, tears streaming down her face. The shadow whispered into both their ears. Save yourself. Leave the other. Only one can be free. Breaking the trick. Rafi's chest heaved. His legs trembled. The shadow wanted him to choose. To break their bond. But then he remembered every time the shadow forced a choice, it grew stronger. Every time they resisted, it faltered. Asterisk, he stopped running. He shut his eyes. Asterisk, and he shouted with everything inside him. Tisha, don't believe it. I'm here, I'll always be here. Asterisk, across the field, Tisha froze. Her sobs quieted. Asterisk, she shut her eyes too. I know. I feel you. Asterisk, the illusions shattered. The army of shadows dissolved into smoke. And suddenly they were standing side by side again. Asterisk, the shadow recoiled, its towering body rippling with fury. No, you cannot break my design. Asterisk, Raffi smirked through his exhaustion. Guess we just did. The mark burns, but the victory was brief. The black veins on Raffi's arm flared, spreading across his chest and neck. His body jerked, his breath ragged. Asterisk, Tisha grabbed him, her voice trembling. Raffi, no. Don't let it take you. Asterisk, the shadow's laughter rolled across the field. He is mine. His sacrifice bound him. His blood is my vessel. Raffi fell to his knees, screaming as the darkness spread. Tisha's mind raced. If the shadow took him fully, there would be no coming back. And then she remembered the knife. Asterisk, the knife's return. Asterisk, the hunting knife appeared at her feet, glinting faintly. She picked it up, her hand shaking. Asterisk, the shadow whispered in her mind, end him. Free yourself. You know it is the only way. Asterisk, Raffi gasped, his voice breaking. To Tisha, don't listen. Asterisk, her tears fell onto the blade. Her hand trembled violently. Asterisk, I won't kill you, she whispered. But I'll kill what's inside you. She raised the knife, and instead of stabbing him, she slashed her own palm open. Blood spilled across the gray ground. The blood-packed asterisk, she pressed her bleeding hand against his marked arm. Their blood mingled, dripping into the gray soil. Asterisk, the mark writhed violently, burning under their combined touch. The shadow shrieked, its massive body trembling. Asterisk, no. You cannot bind against me. Asterisk, Tisha gritted her teeth. You bound yourself to our bloodline. Then you bound yourself to both of us. Asterisk, her voice rose, stronger than it had ever been. And together we reject you. Asterisk, the mark exploded with light. Raffi screamed, but this time, not in pain. In release, asterisk, the black veins dissolved into smoke, ripped from his body. Asterisk, the shadow staggered, its form unraveling. The final confrontation. Asterisk, the siblings stood together, bloodied but defiant. Asterisk, the shadow loomed. Weaker now, but still massive, still terrible. Its voice shook with rage. You cannot destroy me. I am every fear, every darkness, every shadow cast by the light. I am eternal. Asterisk, Raffi wiped blood from his lips, standing tall. Then maybe we don't destroy you. Asterisk, Tisha's grip tightened on the knife. Maybe we lock you away. The prison. Asterisk, they closed their eyes, focusing on each other, on their bond. Asterisk, the gray world shook as light spread from their joined hands, circling outward like fire. The ground cracked, the sky split, and the shadow howled as chains of light burst from the earth, wrapping around its body. Asterisk, it thrashed. Towering above them, its screams splitting the sky. No, you are mine. Asterisk, but the chains tightened, dragging it down, pulling it into the gray soil. Its limbs stretched, broke, and dissolved into smoke. And then, with one final roar, it was gone. The field fell silent. The return, the gray faded. When Rafi opened his eyes, he was lying on the grass. The morning sun burned bright above them. The forest was alive again, the trees swaying gently, birds chirping. Asterisk beside him, Tisha sat with her hand still gripping his. Her palm was bandaged with torn fabric, her eyes red from crying, but she was smiling. Asterisk, we made it, she whispered. We actually made it. Asterisk, Rafi looked around. No ruins, no shadows. Just the world as it should be. For the first time, it felt real. He leaned back, exhaling shakily. It's over. Asterisk, but in the sunlight, neither of them noticed the faint black scar still etched into the earth where their blood had spilled. Part 9. Asterisk, the scar remains. The quiet morning. The forest smelled of dew and wildflowers. Sunlight glittered through the canopy, chasing away the last memories of ash and gray skies. For the first time in what felt like forever, Rafi and Tisha weren't running. They weren't screaming. They weren't trapped in endless games. They just breathed. Tish, leaned her head against her brother's shoulder, her voice soft. Do you hear that? Rafi tilted his head. The sound of birdsong, insects buzzing, branches rustling in the wind. Normal, peaceful, alive. A part of him wanted to believe it would last, but then his gaze drifted to the ground. The place where their blood had spilled, where the chains of light had dragged the shadow away. The grass grew greener everywhere, except there. Right at the center, a dark scar still marred the soil, a jagged, blackened mark that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Rafi's stomach twisted. It's still here. Tisha followed his gaze, her smile fading. I thought we ended it. He shook his head. We stopped it. That's not the same as ending it. The warning, they didn't stay long. They couldn't. The scar seemed to hum louder the longer they looked at it, as though staring too long might let it pull them back. By afternoon, they were on the road leading toward the village. The villagers had searched for them for days, believing them lost. When the siblings stumbled out of the woods, scratched, bloodied, and trembling, the people swarmed around them. Old man Habib, the village elder, was the first to notice the bandaged palm on Tisha's hand, stained deep with dried blood. His face grew pale. You touched it, he whispered. Tisha frowned. Touched what? The wound. His eyes flicked to Rafi's arm, where faint scars of black still lingered beneath the skin. It doesn't let go. It waits. Rafi's voice hardened. We fought it. We beat it. Habib shook his head. No, boy. You chained it. And chains break. The words lodged in their hearts like daggers. The night tremor. That night, Rafi dreamed. He was back in the gray field, alone this time. The air was heavy, still. The chains of light lay shattered on the ground. Broken links scattered like bones. And from the scar in the soil, a single hand rose long, clawed fingers, made of smoke. A voice whispered in his ear. Softer now, but closer. Not gone. Never gone. You bleed, I return. Rafi woke drenched in sweat, clutching his arm where the veins had once burned. The faint black marks shimmered faintly in the moonlight, like ink refusing to fade. He sat up, trembling, watching Tisha sleep peacefully beside him. He didn't wake her. He didn't tell her what he saw, but deep down, he knew this wasn't over. The scar spread's morning came. And with it, more signs. The villagers whispered about dying crops, leaves curling black at the edges, animals refusing to graze near the forest's edge. Children woke screaming at night, their dreams filled with shadows they couldn't describe. When Rafi and Tisha went back to the scar, it had grown. What was once a small wound in the earth now stretched like a spider web, cracks running outward, seeping darkness into the soil. Tisha's hand tightened on Rafi's arm. It's spreading. The ground pulsed beneath their feet, as though something beneath the earth was breathing, waiting. Rafi clenched his fists. His voice was raw, desperate. We ended this. We ended this. The soil trembled in response, a faint laugh rumbling beneath it. The shadow was bound, but not destroyed, and now it was learning how to slip through the cracks.